a very good morning to you. It's Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. It's the day after a public holiday. It's the day at the end of a long weekend. Yesterday we celebrated emancipation in Trinidad and Tobago. Much to talk about with that across the country, where we are and where we need to be still. Let me just tell you about a front page headline in this morning's Newsday. It says, Cambon to government, days for asking are over, we must demand reparations. And that Cambon is the younger one, Shabaka Cambon, the son of his father, the man who started this movement that staged this demonstration, this protest, or this we say procession from downtown Port of Spain to the Queen's Park Savannah, where there has been days of activity taking notice of and recognizing the distances we have walked this far. The Emancipation Village, imagine it closed yesterday at the end of the holiday, talking about Kafra Cambon. So Shabaka Cambon, who's sort of stepping into the shoes of his father, is saying that we must demand the reparations. Well, how do we do that? It's a discussion we're going to have in due course as we go along here. But we're talking this morning with Minister of Public Utilities, Marvin Gonzalez, on the plan now. It's emerging more and more for the changeover of the Water and Sewage Authority. The restructuring, 213 managers to be affected by that. They say they want to start at the top. The chairman, Mr. Nanga, is saying that. Also in the program this morning, we're talking with Michelle Borrell. She's a radio personality and an author, and they're talking about something called a young cap for development of women in our sites. Young Lady, it is called, learning about developing yourself. It's a character building camp for young ladies between the ages of 13 and 17. That is in the second hour of the program this morning. So those things and more on the program this morning. We're just getting going here with AM Prime on WESNCC. We take a short break and we'll be back in a moment.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
The Mary Immaculate Prayer Group and Friends presents its prayer breakfast on August 31st in aid of Monsignor Christian Pereira. The prayer breakfast begins from 9 a.m. at the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. Cost is only $200. Come support the Cup of Gratitude in aid of Monsignor Pereira, August 31st.
Tickets are available at the Parish Office of the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception and the Parish of Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
Welcome back to the program. Let's just give you a frame of what we're talking about here from the script I have here. Approximately 213 executive members of staff at the Water and Sewage Authority will be out of a job early next year as the first phase of the cabinet-approved transformation and restructuring plan is rolled out. During a press conference at the Ministry of Public Utilities, Minister Marvin Gonzalez said the plan had only been approved hours earlier by the cabinet. He said upon receipt of the confirmed cabinet minute yesterday, WASA's chairman Ravindra Nanga would be written to and given the mandate to immediately commence the transformation process. There's more in this narrative here we'll get to as we continue this discussion with the Minister of Public Utilities. He's with us this morning, the Member of Parliament for Lupino Bonner.
Lupino Bonner West, correct.
Mr. Marvin Gonzalez. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Andy, and good morning to your viewers. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, world.
Oh, well,
happy emancipation to you and your team at WESN, and happy emancipation to all our people throughout the world and Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, many happy returns to you, sir. Before we came on, I just wanted to go back to some of what you were talking about, when we were talking about emancipation yesterday, what you did and what you didn't do. You said that, well, you didn't do much in terms of what you would have wanted to do, because you spent some time, you spent the better part of the day in part of your constituency, and you're talking about the ways in which a member of parliament who is a cabinet minister has to split him or herself. Just give us a sense of how you're finding out that experience to be.
Well, it can be very tough because you're holding down a very tough Ministry of Public Utilities, being responsible for some of our utility companies like TNTech, WASA, TSTT, Swimcall, MTS, Trinidad and Tobago Postal Corporation, very, very large public utility agencies, and ensuring that the country has, a stable and reliable public utility services. And I'm also a member of parliament for Lupino Bonner West, a constituency along the east-west corridor, comprising over 30,000 persons or electors. So managing the two portfolios can be very, very difficult and could be very challenging because they are both full-time responsibilities, as you may be well aware. During the parliamentary session, whilst you do all of that, you have to prepare and contribute to the debate in Parliament. You have to participate in joint select committees of the Parliament, several committees of the Parliament. You have to attend to constituency activities, meeting with your constituents on a regular basis to address their concerns within the constituency, the state of our infrastructure, jobs, attending to cultural and sporting activities, and what have you. So yesterday was one example where, they are competing objectives. You're responsible in the thrust of a transmission of a major utility, WASA, and I had to participate in sporting activities in the Five Rivers area. Was invited by the Five Rivers Community Council, who normally would have their annual emancipation activities, 3 days of emancipation activities at the Prime Minister Recreation Grounds in the Five Rivers area. So I decided to give priority to my constituency activities yesterday in emancipation, and I spent the greater part of yesterday celebrating emancipation with them, in looking at sports and looking at the march past and all the novelty events. It was a very exciting day, and of course the constituents there in the Five Rivers area were very happy to meet with me and of course hear their concerns within the Five Rivers area. So it was a very fulfilling Emancipation Day for me yesterday as Member of Parliament for Lupino Bonner West.
How many distinct communities are there, distinct and separate? So you can say, well, so that is one community spread across your constituency. How many?
Yeah. So you have the Five Rivers area. You have part of Tacarigua, and as you move further east, you have the Bonner West community, and then you have the Windy Hill community. Ridgeview Heights is a spreading HDC community, and then you have Garden Village, La Florissant, and then you have parts of the Arima, Old Road straight up to Beckles Lane, boundary, on the boundary of the Arima constituency where you live on that side, and then on the northern side. Yeah, exactly. And then on the northern side, you have the Surrey Village, La Pastora, Lupino, and those areas. So it's a fairly large constituency, just to name a few.
Yeah, and so how do you ensure, or try at least to ensure, that some of the people in some of these communities don't accuse you, as is the case with representatives, that we don't get to see our MP?
So what we try, well, and that's a good question. So what we started doing over the last 3 or 4 months is having roving constituency days. So as opposed to going to your constituency office and to see people on a waiting list to see the member of parliament, we take the constituency office to the community. So last week, we were in the Five Rivers area in the Kandahar community. We set up our tents and, our office staff, forms, and all these things. And we take the services of the constituency office to the various communities. And we've had maybe about 5 or 6 successful roving constituency day where we go into the communities and we meet with them. The one before that was in the Cleaver Heights area, and Cleaver Heights is a very big HDC community. I think it's about 4,000 residents there, and we set up our constituency office and we met the people of Cleaver Heights. The one before that was in the Sherwood Park area. There's a small little recreational space that the residents use. I'm trying to do some rehabilitation work there. And we set up our constituency office, and the people of Sherwood Park came and they met with the member of parliament, they met with the staff of the constituency office to discuss the issues within their respective area. Often we would go up to Lopino and Surrey Village. Of course, that is the rural part of the constituency. A lot of people prefer, only if they have reasons to, they come to the Aruka area. But so we would take the office up to Lopino and Surrey Village, and we meet the people there. So, so we try all these mechanisms, Andy, to reach out, because not often people would want to come to the constituency office for one reason or the other. But and we recognizing that, we've decided to take the constituency office to the various communities.
Yeah, and Surrey Village, of course, that's the home of Jitsamru, the late Jitsamru, and the Steel Orchestra.
A beautiful community, it's alive. There's an alive and a vibrant village council there. We are also looking to complete the construction of a brand new Surrey Village Community Center. I'm hoping that by October, we'll be in a state to commission a brand new community center there. I'm also hoping that very soon we'll be making an announcement with respect to the full restoration of the Lopino historical site. That site has been out of operation, I'm told, for maybe 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
So the cabinet has recently made a decision to transfer the facility from Ministry of Agriculture to Ministry of Tourism. Next week, I'll be visiting that community, Lopino, again with my cabinet colleague, Minister of Tourism and Culture, to that site, and very soon, hopefully, the government will be making an announcement with respect to the full restoration of that Lopino historical site.
Do you find sometimes, so you go to one community for meeting with the residents there, and constituents from other parts of the constituency know where you're going to go, and they come to see you there because of their concerns? How do you because I know that happens.
You dropped off about 5 seconds, so I didn't get. I think the connection is a bit unstable. So can you just repeat the question?
Yeah, that so you today is your day to go to constituency A, but you'd find that when you get there, some of the electors from constituency B would come there because they know you're going to be there today. You always get that, and not only that too, Andy. Sometimes you may do some work in one area of the constituency, and then another area will accuse you of not attending to their needs, So recently we commissioned a brand new water treatment facility in the Lopino community, utilizing the clean water from that Lopino River, as we've done in so many other areas, especially in East Trinidad, where the river, which is a surface water sources rather, they are the main source of water that is treated and sent into the domestic grid. So recently, we commissioned a brand new facility in the Lopino area, moving the community to, the majority of the community to 24/7 water supply. But as you do that, you would see some areas
other areas complaining, well, we don't have 24/7 water supply, so he's always present in the Lupino area. So these things do happen, but as member of parliament, you recognize that you will always have work to do in the various communities. There's no community that does not need anything, or that is perfect. So what you do is, by the utilization of limited financial resources, you put it towards the most pressing needs in the constituency. And as resources become available, you continue to do the work among the people. Sometimes people complain, and you go and you have a chat with them, and they're happy that you come forward and chat with them. You speak to them, you understand their need, and that you have a plan in place to address it at some point in time once resources become available. But if you don't make yourself available so that you can listen to their needs and their concerns, then it can become very difficult as a member of parliament.
And there are forums in which people complain to the higher ups, to the political directorate, about the performance of their MPs and so on.
We started a couple of months ago. One of the things that I'll be doing from September after the budget is having a number of cottage meetings all over the constituency. So in addition to constituency days, we intend to have community meetings in the various beautiful community centers that we've commissioned over the years. So we will be utilizing those community spaces to speak to the constituents, to speak to the country about government's policy, what we are doing, and to hear directly from them, their needs and their concerns with respect to. So you will see a ramping up of activities. As far as Lupino Borneo West is concerned, a number of meetings will be held where you get the opportunity to speak to the people, to hear their concerns, their cries, and as well as the opportunity for me to discuss government's policy in the various ministries, not only Ministry of Public Utilities, but across the board.
Are you finding out, or have you already found out, that the job and the responsibilities that come with it are more expansive, much more demanding that you may have thought in your best times in making this determination?
Andy, let me tell you this: there's no way one can be prepared for this job and understand the challenges of this job. You have to be in it to understand it. You have to be in this seat. I mean, you might have an idea, but it is only when you get here you fully appreciate the rigors of this job, the expectations of people, trying to meet all the expectations of people, as reasonable or unreasonable as it might be. It is actually a 24-hour job. If I stay up at 3 o'clock in the morning to answer WhatsApp messages, trust me, I will be on my phone for 24 hours communicating with people. And my number, I've had the same number for the last 5 or 10 years. I have not changed my number. In my previous job, the number that I had there is the same number. I've never changed my number when I became minister. So everyone, if they wish, they can have access to my number. So most of the times I talk to people on my phone, I don't know who I'm speaking to. They got my number in some WhatsApp chat. In the constituency of Lupino Borneo West, imagine we have a constituency WhatsApp chat with over, I think it's about 200 or 300 constituents. And they take the opportunity there to speak to me, speak to the councillors, air concerns that they may have in whatever area. And, I'm there responding to their concerns. And so being on an open public WhatsApp chat like that, of course, people will take your number and they will share it with others. So a lot of people from Tobago, from South Trinidad, Central, all over, they message me and to raise concerns, and I address them.
Yeah. At this point, have you come to a conclusion? Do you want to continue with this, or when this term ends, that's it?
That's a very good question. I have 2 daughters, Andy, 2 young daughters, and I actually feel it for them because they grow so fast. You look at my first daughter, and she's growing so fast, and I feel a sense of pain because I would want to be part of their growing up. I don't want to be a stranger to them, and I love what I do. I love to do my part to make Trinidad and Tobago a better place, because I don't want them to migrate. I don't want them to move to another country to seek a better life. I want them to stay right here in Trinidad and Tobago and to do their part to make Trinidad and Tobago a better place. So for me personally, I feel a sense of, it's two loyalties: your loyalty to your country to do what is right and responsible for the betterment of your country, and as a father, to guide and to mold and to be part of the life of your daughters. Because too often, especially we as Black men, people accuse us of not being committed to family, not being committed to our children, and I don't want to be a Black person not doing my part to raise my children responsibly and to demonstrate to others that some of the stigmas that we carry as Black people, it is not so at all. Because as I have a lot of Black friends and fathers who do just as I do to raise children in a stable, responsible environment, doing our work as men to support our children and to give them the best life that we can give them, so that they can become productive citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, to contribute to the development of Trinidad and Tobago. So that burning passion for public service, it remains lit and bright, even though sometimes it will be a bit daunting and disappointing. But it's part of the responsibility. It's part of the burden and the yoke of responsibility that we carry.
Well, I'm glad you sort of touch on the ethnic thing on the day after emancipation, because there was a post I was reading yesterday by one Mr. What's his name? Steve Alvarez. He put out this statement yesterday. I don't know if you get some of his correspondence, in which he was bemoaning the fact that we're celebrating or we're observing emancipation. And he was saying, when you look at the society, the people who are in evidence in predominant numbers as not doing well are Afro-Trinidadians and Tobagonians, well, in particularly Trinidadians. He's saying the people who line up for these jobs in CPEP and URP and so on, are in the main Afros. The people who line up to get assistance from the government, in the main, are Afros. And he was saying that from his view, we don't have much to celebrate if we're talking about emancipation after all these years. How do you?
I don't think I necessarily agree with that, because if one decides to focus on one aspect of life in Trinidad and Tobago, they can easily come to that conclusion. But there are so many good and positive things happening in our Black communities all across Trinidad and Tobago. And so I don't think that I necessarily agree with Steve Alvarez on that. And perhaps as he focused on that aspect of our reality, that there are other aspects of the reality, of our own reality, that he should focus on before coming to that conclusion. That is not to deny that we have our challenges as Black people, and in our families, etc. And as leaders in our community, yourself, Andy, as a leading journalist, myself as a government minister, member of parliament, Mr. Alvarez as a political figure, Black person, I think we also have our part to play in portraying and doing the things that we need to do to ensure that our Black people and our young Black people, they have role models around them, so that they can wish to aspire to be an Andy Johnson or Steve Alvarez, Marvin Gonzalez, Keith Rowley, whatever it is. So we have examples of Black people doing very well across the board, and we just have to ensure that a lot of our young people who, for one reason or the other, they're finding it difficult to find themselves self-sustainable jobs because of lack of education. And these problems have been with us for a very, very long time, since our independence. They're not unique to Trinidad and Tobago. As a matter of fact, they're all over the world. You're listening to some speeches of Barack Obama over the last couple of days. And, as a politician now, I can identify with even more with the things that he was saying, during his presidency. And you recognize that the challenges that we face in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean are not unique to us at all. It's all over the world. So we have to stop beating up on ourselves to give the impression, to give people the impression that our problems are unique. Certainly they are not unique. We are part of the world. And if we just, cast our eyes as to what is taking place in other jurisdictions in the Caribbean, in the diaspora in North America and Europe, you realize the problems are very, very similar.
Yeah, and you think to what extent some of the thinking is influenced by the fact that in the vast majority of cases, the people who are brought before the courts for a lot of both the petty crimes and criminal activity are, again, as used to be said, it's not a term that I like to use, black and chicken, as people call us.
Yeah. As I say, we have our problems. And it is not, our problems are not unique to us. Our East Indian brothers and sisters, they also have their own problems. Our Syrian brothers and sisters, they have their own problems. So that's the reason why we have to continue doing, the work as leaders, always making sure that we have the correct data to ensure that we have a just and an equitable society. So, recently when the government passed the cannabis bill, and liberalize, decriminalize marijuana. It resulted in a reduction in a number of our young people, and especially our young black people, whose lives were tainted for just having, one marijuana joint, and some of them because of poor economic circumstances, they were put in prison or in remand yard, and they remained there for years. Because they can't raise the requisite bail because of lack of money or property and what have you, and their lives were stained forever. So I'm just using that as an example of the things that we can do as a government to help address some of the social justice issues in our community. That is just one example. But we have to continue to do our part as a government to ensure that we have a society that is just and fair for all of our people. But this is not a task only for the government. This is a task for the churches, for our community groups, our village councils, our schools, everyone, every area, every successful person, every Andy Johnsons, every Marvin Gonzalez. We have our role to play to really move this thing along. But too often we believe that it is the government's responsibility. The government is doing its part. The government is doing its part, and the government can show what it is doing to ensure that this problem is reversed. But certainly, if we continue to believe that it is only the government's responsibility, then we will be sadly mistaken. And 20 years from now, the conversation that we're having, Andy, today, will be the same conversation that we'll be having 20 years from now. If we continue to be under the misguided impression that this is only for the government, and everybody must just stand aside and hope that water is turned into wine someday.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we talk more about what was on the agenda to be talking about water.
But I enjoyed this conversation, though.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank you very much for being so expansive and for being so indulgent in allowing this kind of discussion to take place as a prelude to what we want to talk about, what we're supposed to be talking about, water and WASA and the restructuring of WASA. So let's take a break. When we come back in a moment. Thank you very much. Stay with us. The continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion.
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix-It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix-It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
Welcome back to the program. Well, again, we want to really extend our gratitude to the Minister of Public Utilities, the Member of Parliament, Falopino Bonawes, for being so indulgent with us. We talk about, in that last discussion, a lot having to do with the carrying out of his duties and his responsibilities as a member of Parliament, in that sense, as a representative of people in part of the country, in a critical constituency. What comes with that? We want to get to the subject at hand now, the plan for the restructuring at the Water and Sewage Authority. And finally, the restructuring plan is in and is being talked about in a way towards implementation. And it says here that 213 executive members of staff at the Water and Sewage Authority will be out of a job early next year as the first phase of the cabinet-approved transformation and restructuring plan is rolled out. Minister, over the last couple of days, and you're thinking about it, I'm saying, well, one is that the chairman, Mr. Nanga, is in this, and he's saying that, well, the thing has to start at the top. And the question that I was wrestling with over the last couple of days, well, so that is out there in a situation in which there are 426, we are told, members of executive or management staff, and half of them are going to be cut. I was wondering yesterday, how many of that 426, who among them was sitting now on pins and needles wondering, is it going to be me? And how is that taken into account in addressing this situation? Let's start with that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andy. So let me just answer your question, and perhaps we'll put a little bit more context into the discussion.
Yeah.
So 426 managers, some within the executive management structure and the others within the managerial structure, non-executive officers. But at the end of the day, it's 426 managers, including executive and non-executive managers. And that is a very good question, because if I were a manager inside of WASA, I would be asking myself what criteria is now going to be used to determine who goes, who stays. So, but remember, one of the first, a key component of the transformation plan is it's a new structure for the organization, including a new management structure for the organization that was put together, taking into consideration the challenges, faced by modern water utility companies all around the world. And you want to ensure that you have a company that's fit for purpose, and that the managers, their job descriptions, etc., are designed to be able to treat with some of those challenges. So all of these were taken into consideration in the preparation of the new management structure for the Water and Sewage Authority. And perhaps the most equitable and the most transparent process is to ensure that as you implement that new structure, that all the 426 managers, current managers, and executive officers will have an opportunity to now apply to the new management structure that will comprise of just over 200 positions.
Yeah, and the question is, so to the extent that you can, I don't know if there's one means of deriving intelligence out of what is happening now, but to get a sense of who among that 426 is operating on the basis that, well, I think it could be me? And what are the effects of that for somebody continuing to work until such time as their name gets called? Or
of course, right. So I don't want to preempt the work of the board because I honestly am trying to keep an arm's length distance from the work that the board and its consultants, advisors, etc., would have to do in implementing this first phase of the transformation. So I would just say this for now. I think it was explained a little bit further in the Guardian yesterday that all managers, their positions will come to an end, and they will now have the opportunity, as long, as with everybody else within the organization and outside of the organization, to apply for the 200 and something positions within the new executive and non-executive management structure.
And what is the date by which that will happen?
So we are hoping, after recent discussions with the chairman and the board, because of the critical nature to have proper management in place so as to drive the other components and phases of the restructuring process, it is very important that we complete filling of these new positions in management before the end of 2022.
Yeah, I saw some traffic in the discussions on this a couple of days ago, with somebody saying that at least somebody is putting great faith and confidence in the abilities of the chairman, Mr. Nanga, to do it. But the point is that, at least the person's point was that they hope that he's left to do what he can do and what some people see him being able to do, as opposed to being influenced from the cabinet in a way in which would muddy the waters for it. So that there is this expression of confidence in his ability to do what is required, but the feeling is that he's not going to be allowed to operate in the best possible way because politics is going to get involved. How do you push back on that? How do you dispute that?
Yeah, I certainly don't agree with that, Andy, because the way we are moving forward this transformation is we are using a shared responsibility, I would say a shared responsibility format or model, where the board was directly involved in the preparation of the transformation plan, together with the cabinet subcommittee that's chaired by the Minister of Planning and Development, Minister Camille Robinson-Regis, other members of cabinet, myself, as the line minister, the consultant hired by the board to assist it in the preparation of this transformation plan, as well as another subcommittee of the cabinet. You would also recall that on the exit of Dr. Seeley, who was the previous chair and executive director of WASA, a couple months after Mr. Nanga was appointed chair, and it signaled the government's confidence, and that happened during the transformation process or the preparation of the transformation plan, and it signaled the government's continued confidence in Ravi Nanga, because at that point in time he was the deputy chair of the board, and given his vast experience in HR and IR matters and what have you, and given the close working collaboration that I share with him as Minister of Public Utilities, and the way in which he managed the board over the last year, we have every confidence that Mr. Nanga will lead this transformation with a high level of professionalism and competence, and I, as line minister, will ensure that he has the flexibility, he has the space in which to drive the government's policy where this transformation is concerned.
So let me ask you at this point, is there any sense as to who, if not the entire crop, who among the current 426 are the ones who are likely to go?
No,
I don't call names, but
no, I don't. Yeah. I don't. But I really don't know. The board has a close working relationship with a lot of these managers. They would have done quite a lot of work with them, like, for example, in the preparation of the business plan and the cost of service studies for the Regulated Industries Commission. I know the board, some members of the board would have spent hours and hours, all up to 1 o'clock in the morning, and you will not believe it, and 2 o'clock in the morning preparing this business plan and the cost of service studies, preparing the strategic action plan for water improvement supply across Trinidad and Tobago, regional plans for water supply improvements across Trinidad and Tobago, leak repair management, and all these things. All of these things happened over the last 20 months, with the board working closely with a lot of these managers inside of WASA. So I don't assume that it is going to be a very difficult task for the board to know those managers that continue to have and will play a key role in the transformation of the authority. I think the board has a good sense as to who those managers are and perhaps who should not be part of the new transformed water and sewage authority.
Yeah, you say that people are going to be asked to consider themselves, put up their positions and have it reviewed, and then decisions are going to be taken. You see, so all 426 are going to be retrenched and then have to reapply. That's what you're saying?
Yes, so the new positions that within the new organizational structure that was approved is not anywhere close to what we have at this point in time. The new job descriptions and the requirements, for filling some of these positions are not, even closely resembling what we have right now. WASA has not gone through this kind of transformation, perhaps ever since its existence. We had talk of transformation, attempts at transformation in the past, but nothing resembling the kind of work and the kind of preparation that went into the preparation of this transformation plan. So, going as deep as new job descriptions and new job requirements, etc., that demonstrates rather the amount of work that went into the preparation of the transformation plan, and therefore it would only be fair, it would only be transparent to bring an end to the engagements of the 426 managers, giving all of them the same 426, as well as even people within the organization occupying junior positions, once they have the requisite qualification, skills, and experience to apply for the 200 and something odd positions that will now comprise of the new executive and management structure of the organization.
And that would be phase one, and then you get to the rank and file.
And then you will get to the bargaining units, correct?
Yeah.
Right? So stage two, obviously, would be, you would recall that 2020 Cabinet Subcommittee report that was laid in the Parliament. I had the opportunity to chair that first Cabinet Subcommittee that looked at WASA. And the findings of that report, were quite startling. And, we did not keep it in a desk or have it hidden from the public's eyes. We laid it in Parliament. And if anybody wants or interested in understanding what we've discovered back then and now, they can just simply read that report. And one of the recommendations of the report was that the WRA, the Water Resource Agency, should be removed and should not be housed within WASA. And that has been a recommendation over the last 20 years by international bodies, the IDB and the World Bank. They've an organization that organizations around the world rather that look at integrated water resource management as a science in turning around water sectors all around the world. They've made numerous recommendations to remove the WRA from inside of WASA, because you can't be a regulator and be housed directly inside an organization that is not a regulator, but really an operator within the industry, which is WASA. So we are also going to, in alignment with the recommendation of that 2020 Cabinet Subcommittee report, be removing the WRA from WASA and putting it under the Ministry of Public Utilities. I can't remember how many staff that we have within the WRA, but they will also be impacted by that move. I guess they will have the opportunity to transition from WASA into the Ministry of Public Utilities with that move. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah. So the plan is to cut the management and supervisory team in half. What about the rank and file workers? What is the sort of the profile for addressing reductions there?
So of course that will come after engagement with the recognized union, majority unions, the PSA, the NUGFW, the union representing the security officers or the estate police within
Yes.
WASA. But again, Andy, if you go back to the 2020 report, I'm just using that as because to understand this restructuring, I would advise anyone. This transformation plan did not just come about. It is a continuation of work that was done in 2020 when the government came into power. And a
2015.
report. The transformation of WASA, the government did not have that within its sights in 2015.
Okay.
I think the government was focusing on Cal and Petrotrin and those areas.
Yeah.
In its second term, the government indicated to the country that the next stage of transformation of state companies, large state companies, would be WASA. And that is the reason why when we won the elections in August 2020, and the Prime Minister put together his cabinet, one of the first things that he did was to put together a cabinet subcommittee, which he asked me to chair, to look at the operations of WASA and to make recommendations for its transformation, to determine whether or not WASA is fulfilling its statutory mandate to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And so that report, it took us 4 months to put together. And we went into the organization and we were able to pull together a very, very comprehensive report with some major recommendations. And one of the recommendations was shutting down WASA. Of course, that was not accepted by the cabinet, but we put 3 main recommendations forward. The restructuring of WASA, that was the first one. The setting up of a new company, a water management company, which the PSA, for some reason, they just hopped on that. And the third one was shutting down the Water and Sewage Authority and coming up with something else. I can't remember exactly what it was. And the government has decided that it is going to go with the first recommendation, which is the restructuring and transformation of the Water and Sewage Authority. But going back to that report, Andy, we looked at other utility companies in Jamaica, Bahamas, all over the world, the Caribbean, Barbados, North America, in Europe. And one of the things that we recognized was that the average staff to customer connections ratio of staff and customer connections was somewhere in the region of 5 employees to 1,000 connections. I think that is what it was. And most utility companies had about 5 or 6 employee to 1,000 customer connection. In WASA, we had 13.
30?
13.
13.
Yeah, 13. 13 employees to 1,000 customer connections. So that ratio obviously demonstrates powerfully the extent to which WASA is overstaffed. It was also recognized in the UNC's attempt to restructure the organization in 2013. It was recognized, and I have all the written correspondence that the UNC would have prepared and sent to the IDB, where they've identified the very issue that WASA has a staff to employee ratio of 13 to 1,000 customer, whereas in other utility companies similar to WASA, it was about 7. And they've asked the IDB for a loan to implement a VSEP program to reduce the employee ratio to around 7 to 1,000 customers. That would have resulted in the retrenchment of about 2,500 or 2,600 employees. Of course, well, we know what was
so
the outcome.
that was a request. That was an avenue being pursued by the People's Partnership.
Of course, that is what they used that as the premise upon which to get a loan of $390 million from the IDB. They spent about $360 million in a visa package in 2013, 2014, indicating to the IDB that, because one of the things that they went to the IDB to get some funding, and the IDB said, well, one of the conditionalities that you will have to comply with is to restructure WASA. Certainly WASA cannot continue like that. And they've given the undertaking to the IDB as part of the loan conditionality to reorganize and restructure WASA in alignment with a modern water utility company with a staff to customer ratio that is in alignment with other utility companies. And they indicated to the IDB that they would reduce the staff from 5,000 to 2,500 employees. And that is the basis upon which they got a loan of $390 million to pursue a staff reduction exercise.
And what happened?
Well, the money was spent, and as employees left the organization, they re-entered via the back door, to the extent that in 2015, WASA had more employees at the end of their tenure than when they commenced the visa package. I mean, that was very, very startling. As a matter of fact, that should have resulted in a criminal investigation. But that is one of the things that I discovered, Andy, when we did a deep dive into the operations of WASA in 2020.
Right.
Obviously, the country never heard about it before then.
Right. So the idea then is to reduce the staff complement, managers and regular workers by half entirely.
What the government is saying, we must start with an organizational structure that we believe is fit for purpose, and upon which the board can now meet with the unions and have engagements with the unions and discussions and consultations to determine what is best for the organization. So the government would have looked at all these things and would have taken all these considerations into putting that new organizational structure together. And the government is now telling the board, as part of its policy, immediately implement the new management structure. And as you go deeper into the bargaining units, you meet and you treat and you discuss these things with the unions, and you make a final determination with respect to the structure for the lower levels. But I'm just telling you that the new structure would have taken all of the things that I've spoken to you about a short while ago, international benchmarks and what have you, in putting together that new structure.
And what do you think is the I was going to say the optical
size
perspective on dealing, starting at the top? What is the message being sent there?
The message being sent there is that the government believes that most of the problems within WASA starts at the top and at management. The government believes, and I believe as minister, that certainly I am not going to be Minister of Public Utilities for 10, 20 years, 15 years. Certainly that is not going to happen. So therefore, our vision and our plan for the transformation of WASA must be driven by managers who adhere to our views that WASA certainly cannot continue along the same line that it has operated in this country for the last 40 or 50 years. And so we believe that we can come up with the best transformation plan for WASA, the best organizational structure, the best water transformation, water supply improvement plans, the best capital investment program. But if you do not have a team of managers to drive these things, to drive the technological revolution that is required, to drive the financial discipline that is required to ensure that WASA delivers upon its mandate, to drive policies that would ensure that the organization meets all the requirements of the Regulated Industries Commission. All these things ought not to be driven by a government. The government is responsible for policy. It is the policy of the government that WASA should be transformed to meet all those requirements. It is the responsibility of the minister and the ministry to ensure that the board ensures that WASA meets all those requirements. But if you do not have a team of managers in place to make these things happen, with all these glossy, attractive plans that you have, it will come to naught if you do not have a team of managers to drive it and make it happen. And the people of this country will continue to have an elusive dream of having a reliable water supply.
All right, is there a yes or no to the proposition from others that this is a Petrotrin come alive again? And put on to that, the question is, what is the percentage of people working at this new agency and organization would be contract employees as opposed to people who have a permanent job?
Well, let me answer the first question. Petrotrin, was Petrotrin a bad decision? People continue to howl about Petrotrin restructuring and this is a Petrotrin all over again and what have you. But the government has restructured Petrotrin. One of the reality coming out of the Petrotrin restructuring, Andy, was Heritage. Heritage now is returning millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in profit to the coffers and Paria, to the coffers of the state, whereas Petrotrin was a $1 billion loss-making state entity. So if this is a Petrotrin all over again, I would say to the detractors, that is not necessarily a bad thing. If you believe it is bad, by just repeating to the country that it was a bad thing, I am telling you that the reality is that we've turned a loss-making entity into entities that are returning profits to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Is that a bad thing? So that's my response to the first thing. The first question.
Yeah,
Second question.
people argue that it costs too many jobs and there's unemployment and poverty in parts of the places where people depend on that. But that's just, it's not necessarily for your response. That is just one of the things that people are saying. But you're saying this is different.
Yes, I'm saying that it is different. I am saying that this is not a Petrotrin. We have not shut down WASA. We have decided that WASA must be kept, contrary to what the PSA has been telling its followers and the people of Trinidad and Tobago, that the government was planning to shut down WASA for a new water management company. Well, the transformation plan has demonstrated once again that the union was engaging in activities to mislead the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
So the name will remain the Water and Sewage Authority?
It must and it will remain the Water and Sewage Authority. I have no intention of changing the name from the Water and Sewage Authority. It remains the Water and Sewage Authority until such time another government or this government believes that we should change the name. But we have a transformation plan, and we are now looking to put together the new management team to drive, our dreams and aspirations for a new water sector in Trinidad and Tobago. But you asked another important question that I didn't get a chance to respond to.
Go ahead.
I can't remember.
Well, okay.
I can't remember. You had asked two questions. One was the Petrotrin thing, how I responded, or my response to that, and there's another one that I also wanted to respond to. But I mean, let's continue the discussion.
Right, well, I mean, the ultimate issue is to what extent there will be a greater level of dependability when somebody turns on their taps in any part of the country, or in parts where that is not the case now. Improvement in people's expectations that there'll be water at the end of the line.
Yes, and good question again, because transformation for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, Andy, it only means water flowing through the taps of citizens around the country. The people of this country, they're not interested in what is your new structure for WASA, whether WASA is fit for purpose, your technology, all these things people are not really too bothered about. People just want to know, listen, when am I getting water? Are you going to comply with your schedules? At the end of the day, at the end of this exercise, are we going to be getting water? Very, very important question. But I'll tell you this. If we don't do what we are doing right now, with respect to the management of WASA, you will not get water flowing through your taps in the way that you want to. Because management and the management of the organization is a key component and a key aspect of ensuring that water flows through your tap. As I have said at the news conference, we've spent $25 billion in recurrent expenditure and capital programs in WASA over the last maybe 12 years or so, since 2010 to 2022. $25 billion within the organization. And yet still we have so many of our citizens and so many communities not getting an efficient water supply. So the problem is not money, contrary to what the union is attempting to tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago, that the government is sabotaging WASA and what have you. I can lay the figures I will continue to lay the figures before the country to show the amount of money that is being pumped inside of WASA, that in any other country where that kind of money is flowing inside of WASA, we would have a world-class service where water supply is concerned. But it is not happening because the management of WASA continues to be a very, very big bugbear for us, because they're getting the financial resources, but how the financial resources are being managed, it is not in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. For example, I can tell you, I would have seen where the government would have spent millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in the development program for WASA. But at the end of the financial year, the utilization of that fund, Andy, is just a small fraction. And when you go deeper, you recognize again it is pointing to the fact that management is so convoluted within that organization that even when the government makes allocation in its annual budget for its development program, the organization is not even utilizing the funds and the allocation made available to it to improve the lives of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, Minister Marvin Gonzalez, our profound, profuse thanks to you for sharing this time with us this morning and talking through some of these issues, both on the straight political front and on the administration front in moving forward with the Water and Sewage Authority. We want to thank you very much. And you did that in a time when you were babysitting. I just want to share that secret with us.
Yes, correct.
With the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. God blessings, Andy, and God blessings to all your listeners and viewers, and happy emancipation again to you.
Many happy returns, sir. We will take a break. The Minister of Public Utilities, the Member of Parliament for Lupino, Bonner West, spending very much very much most of the last hour with us on these two issues. His carrying out of his duties as a Member of Parliament and those as a Cabinet Minister responsible for WASA. He says at least the name will remain, whereas the organization will be restructured. We will take a break. We come back on the other side with a discussion with Michelle Borrell, radio personality and author, something she called Young Lady Development Cap, something she's working on to deliver what that is. We will talk with her on the other side. Stay with us. This is AM Prime.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered,
the conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN, Content Capital.
We delve into the exciting world of neurology.
The brain's an electrical organ. If the brain doesn't get enough blood with food and oxygen to it, it's not able to supply the electricity to the rest of the body. If that happens for a prolonged period enough time where the brain stops getting blood, part of the brain dies. Essentially, that's a stroke.
Hey guys, I'm getting a little nostalgic here, sitting on the blocks at the pool. Today we're going to talk a little bit about swimming. What's up, Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
rich and creamy, you'll find it right here. Makes you smile, relax a while, it's fun and good cheer. Ooh, enjoy every scoop. Ooh, every taste will get you hooked. We have flavors that you love, a combination special. Come along, enjoy our treats. This is Uncle Pete's.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
All right, welcome back to the program. Well, our next guest is what I should say, a woman of multiple endeavors. We've spoken with her a couple of times already on very different aspects of what she considers to be her life and how she influences the lives of others. We're talking with her this morning about something called Young Lady. Learn about developing yourself. It is a character building camp for young ladies between the ages of 13 and 17. Michelle Borrell, radio personality, author, and much more. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning. It is an honor to be here. Pleasure to see you yet again. And thank you for highlighting Young Lady. Learn about developing yourself, the character building camp.
Right, and so it talks about covering such, well, it's a term here I'm interested in, teenpreneurship, vision and goal setting and beauty tips and self-care, confidence building and public speaking, etiquette and presentation skills. Where do you want to start?
Yes. So we all started with mindset building because that's where everything starts. It all starts with a thought. As Bob Proctor says, thoughts become things. So on our first day, we did mindset building, and there's a term that I got from my teenage daughter, and she would always say, yes. So I think that was our connect in camp, because I would always say to these young ladies, I'll say, what kind of energy are we supposed to always have? And we're like, yes. And it's just ensuring that you're opening yourself up to receive all the good things that are in store for you and embracing each situation like the gift it is, because there's an opportunity that comes out of every challenge.
All right, so let's talk about those people who with whom you're working at this, ladies you're working with, Natalie Martina Harris, Lara Quilton Thomas, and Penelope Spencer. That's an A-list of names there.
Yes, and Lara Quintrell Thomas, as well as Arlene Villarreal Felix, a really awesome team that have contributed their time. Our guest speakers were extremely awesome. We have one more guest speaker to go this week, which will be Penelope Spencer, who's an award-winning actress, director, producer, teacher, among so many other things. Natalie Martina Harris, she's the owner and founder of Glorious Bodies, Glorious Minds. She spoke to these young ladies about self-care as well as vision and goal setting. Lara Quintrell Thomas got everything going because these young ladies learned networking. They understand what networking is, and they started doing it among themselves. And they are very good at keeping in touch and understanding that each person is very important. There's some amazing takeaways that Lara Quintrell Thomas was able to offer. And one that I want to share with you, one of those pearls that she would have given, it would be always under promise and over deliver. So if you promise that you're going to give something, let's say Friday at 1 o'clock, instead you deliver it on Thursday, but you give yourself that loophole so you can always under promise and over deliver. They learned that that is a very important quality to have. And we had Arlene Villarreal Felix, AV, known as the beauty expert. And she gave some beautiful tips, beauty tips, also did a makeup demonstration and reminded them that confidence, it's not about putting on makeup to feel confident. You must ensure that you're confident even before that. And the makeup only comes after to enhance the qualities that you already possess. And doing everything that is age appropriate as well, loving yourself and appreciating who you are and whose you are. So it's been a very exciting program thus far, and we're making way for Penelope Spencer. One thing that I can share with you that Natalie Martina Harris would have shared with these young ladies, it would be that your seed, it is already within you. And there's a quotation from Dr. Miles Monroe that I love. Dr. Miles Monroe, he says that within each seed, there's a forest, and we don't have to go searching for those seeds. The seeds are already within us. And that's a very powerful quotation, I believe, from Dr. Miles Monroe. So it's just watering the seeds of greatness that would already exist within these young ladies.
I want to go back to that, the injunction about under-promising and over-delivering. How critical that is. It's very critical when you just thinking about it, because in a lot of cases, people have come away from experiences in which they were promised the moon and the stars, as they say, and then they get neither.
True. It's about being a person of your word and managing expectations as well. Doing what you know you can do and not trying to, in other words, sell somebody more than you need to sell them. It's not about selling persons. It's about connecting with persons, truly wanting to add value. And by adding value, you're giving your word and being a person of character by ensuring you manage those expectations. You're not promising that you can give more than you actually can give. So under promise, if you know you could deliver something in 1 day, instead you say, I'll deliver that to you in 2 days. But then if you deliver it in 1 day, that person is blown away by you being able to deliver even before you promise that you will. Even with the camp, I think this was a great example of under promising and over delivering. So for example, with the camp, some of the activities we did not highlight in the advertising that we would have done for the camp. But what then took place, so long as we had the students a part of this, we were then able to ensure they probably got to see what a studio looked like, a radio studio. We also ensured that we organized tea at the Mina House. So we had a special thing for them there. And then there are also special packages coming at the end of it. And we had a pizza day, courtesy Pizza Hut. We didn't promise that. So everything else, it was just the icing on top of the cake, and we added some sprinkles on top. So we under-promised but over-delivered. And in all things, that's what we should look to do to ensure we manage expectations, being a person of your word and giving more than you say that you will.
So teenpreneurship is about encouraging young people to become entrepreneurs, is that it?
Teenpreneurship, yes, it's ensuring that they understand the difference between an employee and an entrepreneur, and knowing that they have those seeds of greatness within them. If they have the desire to own a business, we want to ensure that they go into this having the skills that they would need to set this alight. So you want to ensure that you teach them what entrepreneurship is, what are some of the ingredients that they would need in terms of teenpreneurship. And I was very much inspired by my alma mater, which would be St. Francis Girls College, because they had me speak to a group of Form 2 students about teenpreneurship. And that's when I decided I need to add this into the camp, because I found it was so awesome when I got to share my experiences from transitioning from employee to entrepreneur. And one of the benefits that I would have realized is that I'm the boss of my own time. Time is really the real currency, not the money, but the time. And once you have control of your time, then you're able to really ensure that what is within you, what is your purpose, you have full control over that, as opposed to doing something within a set time in which you may have to report to someone else, but you could now manage your time. And if you manage your time, that there is the real currency, having that freedom.
You think for a lot of people that is a major issue about being able to manage their time?
Yes, definitely. And time management is everything. And I think also when we spoke about vision and goal setting, time management was also a part of it. One of the things that we did in our mindset building, there's something that I refer to as the billionaire breakfast that I would have shared with them and other persons that I have the honor of coaching. I call it the billionaire breakfast because science has shown, studies have shown really, that when they interviewed various billionaires, how they start their mornings and how they end their days, it's of integral importance, because starting your morning by filling yourself up before you are of service to others, by taking that time to really do things that take care of your mind, body, spirit, in every way. The mental aspect, the physical aspect, emotional aspect, as well as the spiritual aspect. When you set your day with that, then you have what is needed for you to pour yourself out to others. So that billionaire breakfast is something that we often talk about. And it starts with time management and understanding that you first manage yourself, manage your time, manage what you're doing by setting your day.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to, you said that you had an experience with speaking to a class of Form 2 students. I mean, for somebody to have thought that there was, I would say, with this currency in that, and Form 2, I mean, you just passed entering school and so on. What did somebody see as to why that is critical?
I think it's critical, especially for the Form 2s, because you're out of the new stage of just coming into secondary school and you're getting ready to head into Form 3. And Form 3 is where you start thinking of what subjects you would like to pursue for Forms 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So if you can really get them at that Form 2 stage, then you are setting them up for true success, because you're building on their mind, you're building on their thoughts, you're getting them thinking of what they want to do. Very often, especially when we were growing up, we were told, you should be. Why not? But it's time for our children to realize that they come with their blueprint. They have ideas within, and we just want to help them wake those dreams up that they already have. Encourage them in the dreams that they have.
And you encourage them in things. One of the touch points here I see is vision and goal setting, so that it's not too early to begin to coach about that.
No, and St. Francois Girls College is very special for me. When I started hosting events, it started at St. Francois Girls College, and it was because a teacher by the name of Mrs. Gomez, she listened to a cassette that I did. I did a project on a cassette, and when she heard it, she said, Michelle, you've got a lovely voice. Why not use it? And then she encouraged me to host the school concert that was coming up at that time and made me the official host, not only for our school, but then other schools started requesting that I would host different events that they would have. And that started when I was 12. That started when I was Form 2. So it was very sentimental for me being able to speak with those Form 2s and share with them. And as I would always say, when you're of service to others, that's when things wake up inside of you yourself. You serve others, but by doing that, you also serve yourself. And it helped me tremendously having that moment of reflection while the idea for the camp would have come in February. And again, it could be because St. Francois was hosting their 60th anniversary, and that space of gratitude that I would have been in, being invited back to my alma mater, even before I spoke to the Form 2s, just being there, it had me reflecting on, okay, at 12, I would have started hosting shows. I would have started on radio when I was about 16, 17. But what are some of the skills that I think would have made me even better? I want the generation coming up behind me to be even better. I want my children to be even better. And as a parent, I don't see myself as a parent for just my children. I'm a parent.
Yeah. St. Francois, Mrs. McIntosh, she was the principal there some years ago, right? And then I think she went into politics, and so she went into being a representative and so on.
Fantastic principal. When she was coming into St. Francois, that would have been in my final 3 years of St. Francois Girls College. And she was always extremely dynamic.
Yeah. What's the comparison between St. Francois and say bishops? A lot of people talk about bishops and convents and so on, but so you think St. Francois has sort of been identified as and has that sense in people's minds that this is a prestige school as well to the same extent?
I can't say what is in the minds of others, but I'll tell you what's in my mind and my heart. I would say that St. Francois has given me a platform to really express myself, to really understand the gifts that I have. They have teachers who were teaching when I was in St. Francois Girls College, and they're so committed to their craft that they're still teaching. I can tell you from personal experience that teachers who are at St. Francois, who would have taught me, anything I have, they pop up. Another teacher that inspired me and supports me in so many wonderful ways would be Miss Baldwin. And I would say that she created my passion for writing and really guided me in that direction. And I always, any book event that I'm having, anything that I'm doing, I would be like, Miss Baldwin to this very day. So I would say that they have a team of teachers, they have staff who are very committed. And I feel very much like it's a community. that you never lose. It's a community that you would always have. So I believe that St. Francis Girls College, it sets persons up for tremendous success. There's so many persons in various walks of life who have done beautifully thanks to St. Francis Girls College and what they have poured into these lives from early.
When you went there, they had the unique uniform of the hat and the checkered skirt and so on. Why did they do that?
Well, I did not get the hat, but I was fortunate to be there when we had the tie, and I transitioned into the new uniform that they now have. So when that was coming in, I was still at St. Francis Girls College.
Yeah. Confidence building, how difficult is it for most of us? And how do you, getting to the point where you feel confident about who you are and what you set out to do and so on, how do you coach along that line?
This is an everyday thing that we have to do when it comes to confidence, especially when we think of public speaking. One of the things that I share with anyone that I coach in terms of public speaking, nerves develop really because we are other people conscious instead of self-conscious. And that billionaire breakfast, I think it serves in many other areas, especially in the confidence area, because so long as you pour into yourself and you fill yourself up before you go out and face that day, that is when you really see the magic happening. So confidence building, it's essential. It's a daily bit of work. It's not, okay, I'm confident today and that's it. I move on. It's the work that you do on yourself every single day. It's the self-talk that you're giving to yourself. It's what you're saying to yourself and what you even allow to be said about you, and understanding how to ground yourself firmly in who you are.
Yeah, other people conscious as opposed to self-consciousness. Let's talk a little bit about that. How much of an issue that is for a lot of us.
I think that's an issue for the majority of us. We enter a room and we're wondering, okay, I'm wondering what they're thinking. I'm wondering if they're smelling this. I'm wondering if this is fitting right. But when you instead take that time to set yourself and you become self-conscious instead of other people conscious, that is where the important part is. Because very often people are thinking of, I'm wondering how I'm coming across to that person. Now, you don't want to not be open to feedback or constructive criticism, but it cannot in any way have you feel like you're crumbling. So you must ground yourself. You must set your intentions. And it all starts in the mind, which is the first thing that we started talking about. And I did share with you that Bob Proctor says, thoughts become things. And it is true, but it's not just thoughts, it's also the power of our words. Being able to practice makes perfect as well. Being able to see it in your mind and go through various steps before you actually execute, that helps as well in terms of the confidence that you would have in executing various things, in terms of the confidence that you would have based on that self-image that you would have for yourself. That too, it starts in the mind. It starts in your visualization based on how you see yourself. And again, reinforcing with the words that you give to yourself.
How do you work with people who may have had difficult early years in life, trauma of one kind or another, or situations that leave them sort of not with any sense of confidence to begin with, because of
many persons, and not just with this group of young ladies, but many persons I have found because of words spoken to them. In the persons that I have coached, I always ask one thing: how do you start your morning? Tell me about your morning. And is that morning routine when we don't take time for ourselves? As the saying would go, the ship doesn't sink from the water on the outside, but the water on the inside. So it's us allowing what is taking place. Instead of being impacted, we need to learn to be impactful. And it all starts with that morning, how you set your day, having that moment of stillness, having that moment of quiet to connect to yourself, to connect with source, within you. Having that is integral. We feed ourselves breakfast when it comes to the body, but what about the breakfast that you give to your mind, that you give to your spirit? What about your emotions? Are you in control of your emotions, or are you allowing emotions to control you? There is a saying that I have, and I always say we must drop the E in ego and go. That E, it represents emotions. And emotions, we need to understand that emotions are only visitors. So we must treat them well when they come to visit. Master emotions instead of allowing emotions to control us. And there's an acronym that I have for some of the students that I have the opportunity to coach. And I always say ACTS. The acronym for ACTS, I have acknowledge, control, thank, surrender. Acknowledge firstly, what emotion is it that I am feeling? What am I in the space of what's knocking on the door that's me? And that emotion, once you identify it, then you say, okay, you take control, you acknowledge what it is, you're not neglecting the emotion, you acknowledge it, but you take control and then you thank. Because I have found that anytime you feel like you're sinking, you start thanking and you'll realize that you get over that emotion or situation or challenge so much further, so long as you usher in gratitude. And then finally, you surrender. The things that you don't have control over, you allow it to be, knowing that this too shall pass. It's not happening to you, but for you. Emotions are only visitors.
All right. And this is an annual thing?
The Young Lady Camp, this was the first one.
Yeah.
Learn about developing yourself. We do plan on it being an annual endeavor. However, continuously every month, there's a brand new workshop that I offer for persons of all ages. And this is a workshop as well that a lot of companies started hiring me for to share with members of their staff. Because I found when entering the corporate world, everyone wondered, why is she coming inside smiling for a job? Like, what? And in spending some time on that, I realized it's because I start my mornings off doing what I love. I have been doing what I love for a long time. So I am happy. I am filled with joy. I understand the power in I am. I know that my I am is sacred. And what I put after that is of utmost importance because our words are our ones. Not only do our thoughts become things, but our words are our ones. And when I discovered that magic, I wanted to share it with others as well. And that's how Brand You was formulated 15 years ago, that I started to then action in 2020. And I offered for free at first. And then persons started to come for me to coach them, not only one-on-one, but I started doing workshops for not only individuals, but also businesses as well.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much, a woman of many endeavors, Michelle Borrell. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so that's our broadcast for this morning. We want to thank you for watching. We want to thank our guests. And we tell you, you can always keep in touch with us here at AM Prime at WESNCC. That's how you send your emails, but you can keep in touch with us there on all our social media platforms. To tell you that half an hour from now, we have news at the top of the hour, followed by today's edition of Talking Point with Shah and Small. But for now, I'm Andy Johnson. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.